All right, we are jumping in to what it takes to build muscle after 50. Now, these rules still apply if you're not 50 years old, but this is a lot of the clientele that I work with, and there's a lot of talk about building muscle, longevity, maintaining your independence, which is all important. So, first, I want to kind of clarify a few things, right? I've heard this before and we'll continue to hear this again. A lot of people in their 50s think that building muscle means heavy barbells, heavy barbell back squats, loading up their spine, eating like a bodybuilder, 7 Tupperware meals a day, spending 4 hours in the gym. And the truth is it's way simpler than that. Muscle can be built in your 50s and beyond. And frankly, the rules are kind of boring. So buckle in. This will be about 10 minutes. We're going to dive into this and hopefully clarify some things and help you realize that you too can build muscle right now. First, why does this matter? I kind of touched on that, and it's longevity, independence are the two big ones. But for life, right, it's not just about aesthetics. And I say this all the time. I was having a chat with my women's lifting group last night, and your goals are your goals. So if your goals are purely centered around looking good, that's fine. I'm not here to judge your goals. But what muscle does is it protects your joints. It helps with blood sugar control, right? We know that more muscle helps control your blood sugar, which is important. More muscle helps with bone density, also very important for independence. And all of these things lead to more independence. So at this stage of life, at 50, it's not just about looking jacked, looking good. It can be. That's totally fine. It's totally fair. That's something I love helping people with too, but it's more so about staying capable. A conversation I have with clients a lot is, what do you like to do on weekends? What do you like to do outside of the gym? The purpose of your workouts should be to be able to do that more and better. And that's what we focus on, and that's what muscle can help you do. Now, the non-negotiables for building muscle. It takes progressive resistance training or progressive overload. What is this? In layman's terms, this means you have to actually challenge the muscle. You have to give your muscles a reason to grow. I use the example of if you look at a farmer or an auto mechanic, right? And you see their forearms. They're massive. They are just massive forearms. It's not because they sit around doing wrist curls all day. It's because they're constantly using their grip, as all my knuckles crack when I do that. They're constantly providing a stimulus to tell their body, like, hey, we got to stay strong. We need to be powerful. Now, does this mean you have to train your muscles every single day? No, we'll get to that. But progressive resistance, sending a signal, an actual anabolic, which means growth, signal to say, hey, we got to stick around or we got to get a little bit stronger. Now, this doesn't mean you have to max out, okay? Especially over 50, I am not a fan of 1-rep maxes. I'm really not a fan of a 1-rep max for anyone, unless that's your sport. Now, what is a 1-rep max? 1-rep max is just like, I can lift this amount of weight one time. So it's like super heavy. I can barely lift it one time, but that's my 1-rep max. We don't need to do that. And there's a lot of strength standards out there that are based on a 1-rep max, which is fine. But there's ways we can calculate 1-rep maxes based on a 6-rep max or an 8-rep max. It's a very simple formula we can use to say, okay, if you challenge yourself for 8 reps, that estimates your 1-rep max at X amount of pounds. Okay, you're good. How we progressively overload is there's multiple ways to do it. The simplest ways are, if the weight stays the same, can you get more reps next time? Or over time, can you get more reps? So if you, let's just take a push-up, for example, because it's body weight. Let's say you can do 5 push-ups. And you keep training, and now you can do 6. Okay, now you can do 7. Now you can do 8. You progressively overloaded. You're able to do more effort over time. That's progress. Same reps, more weight. So barbell bench press. If you can bench press 45 pounds for 3 reps, and then next time you do it, you can do 50 pounds for 3 reps. That's progressive overload. Another way to do it, better control and range. This is a little bit less objective, more subjective, but it's very possible to monitor this and to progress this way as well. So you have to change, you have to challenge yourself with the weight. Otherwise, there's no reason for your muscles to change. So the workouts send the signal and create the stimulus. Then we need to provide the building blocks. And the building blocks for muscle are amino acids. Amino acids come from protein. So the signal is sent in the gym. The amino acids are digested and then sent to the muscles to say, hey, we got to rebuild these stronger, bigger. Under eating protein, and this is a controversial statement because there are dietitians, nutrition professionals that say Americans already eat enough protein. Why are we encouraging more protein? Those dietitians are living in the past. Okay, the old recommendations that some dietitians still reference for some unknown reason are based on not wasting away. So when you see someone saying you only need 52 grams of protein a day, well, one, that's so broad, because if a person weighs 150 pounds or a person weighs 250 pounds and you're saying all you need is 52 grams of protein, those are 2 different people. So one, it's a dumb recommendation anyways. But more so, yes, a lot of Americans do get enough protein, not from the best sources. So we want to make sure you're getting enough protein. We want to prioritize protein at every meal. And you don't need to get into tracking numbers, measuring out grams. If you're just starting out, do I have protein at every single meal? And start with a palm size, okay? Because a larger person is going to have a bigger palm. A smaller person is going to have a smaller palm. That's perfect. So palm size of protein. Animal protein is the best. It's a complete amino acid profile. If you choose not to eat animal proteins, then you need to get a little bit more creative, but it is very possible. You don't need shakes, bars. I really encourage my clients to get as much of their protein as possible from whole food sources. But you need to prioritize it at every meal, and you need to make sure that you're getting enough. Number 3, recovery. Especially when you're over 50. Muscle actually grows between workouts. It doesn't grow in the gym. You technically stress it in the gym, but it grows and recovers outside of the gym. So 2 to 4 days a week of strength training is plenty. And then the kicker is sleep matters more than adding in another workout. So if you're constantly skimping on sleep, so I got to get in another early morning workout, get caught up on sleep. Sleep is when anabolic hormones, even after 50, our anabolic hormones are often at their highest. That's when our body's recovering. And that's when we're actually missing out on time to build muscle. So quality over quantity for sure. Last thing, you got to have time and patience. Muscle gain is slow. Muscle gain is hard. You're not going to feel it week to week. You're not going to notice it week to week. But give it 6 to 12 months, you're going to be amazed at what you can do if you continuously challenge yourself. Now, real quick, what you don't need, you don't need to do these things. You don't need to lift like you're in your 20s again. I hear this a lot where it's like, well, why should I work out? Because when I was in my best shape in my 20s, I was working out 2 hours a week, and I can't do that anymore, so I might as well not do it at all. Well, you don't have to do that. You don't need to train every day. You should move your body. You should do something physical, but you don't need to lift every day. You don't need to train structured every day. You don't need to crush yourself every workout. Again, going back to the principles of building muscle, are you challenging your muscle groups with progressive overload, hitting each muscle group multiple times per week, 1-2 exercises per workout, but are they quality? That's all you need. You don't need to do 5 different chest exercises or, have a 10 exercise leg day. You don't need to eat perfectly, right? If the goal is just to, hey, I need to start putting on some muscle for longevity, for the purposes discussed at the beginning of this, you don't need to eat perfectly. You need to clean things up. You need to prioritize protein. And lastly, you don't need to always feel sore for it to be effective. You should feel like you did some work. The next day or 2 days after, you should be like, okay, I feel the muscles that I worked, but I'm not debilitated. Again, the question I ask clients, what do you like doing on weekends? If they're so sore and so beat up that they're on the couch all weekend, those workouts are pointless. Okay? So you don't need to kill yourself at the gym. Wrapping up here, practical starting point. This is where, if you're starting from ground zero, this is what you got to do. Strength train 2 to 3 times a week. Focus on what we call primary movement patterns. Squats, pushes, pulls, hinges. Eat protein at every single meal. Walk every day, get your steps in. Prioritize sleep at night. And repeat. And repeat. And repeat. Simple as that. Not easy, but simple. So, if you're in your 50s or below or above, but you want to build muscle because you want to prioritize your health, your longevity, your independence, you don't need extremes. You need a plan that follows progressive overload, prioritizes recovery, respects your body and your life, and that's what actually works. So if that's something you might be interested in, find yourself a coach, find yourself a dietitian, find someone who's both, and let them know. Thanks for tuning in.